So there are 10 spheres on the tree, and these are also called Sephirot. And these each represent a divine aspect or quality of humans and also of God, because of the phrase, as above, so below, as in heaven, so on earth. So one way that we can learn about God is to learn about ourselves. And so these are both divine and human aspects in the spheres. And it's not easy to understand a divine aspect or state of being on its own. So as humans, we fill our imaginations with different types of clues and things that we can relate to. So these are what we call correspondences. And some of the correspondences for each sphere are listed out on this slide. But for each sphere, there is a whole set of things that we relate to so that we can understand what that sphere means, what it's about, what it feels like, so we can have a better understanding of what it is. And with each sphere, there is a God name. There's an archangel for it. There's a host of angels. There are gemstones associated, animals, essential oils, and all of these things are correlations to the energy to help us understand the energy, the Sephirot, and what that is. And it's really difficult to understand a quality without having something to compare it to, or corresponding it to something. So we work with the correspondences to really help us wrap our minds around these concepts, and use mundane world concepts to literally understand the cosmos. And the spheres are our allies on this journey. And when we're in this pure state of being in the tree, the sphere is completely balanced. But, as humans, we're not totally completely balanced. So we all have vices and weaknesses that start to be revealed as we start to work with these divine aspects, because we aren't there yet. So we still need to work at this. So it helps us to see how we show up in the world. And, it's not always easy to see that for us or to know, unless we really take the time to go within, to ask those questions, to go on that inner quest. So it's so important to look at these things and look at where you're in imbalance, where you're self-sabotaging yourself from being your best self, your truest, most divine self. And also in order to bring healing and balance for your life. So when you study the tree, it gives you this amazing system and structure and blueprint to look at and to see where we fall out of balance so that we can recognize that when it happens and use the tools from the tree to bring ourselves back into higher states of balance. And within each sphere, there are places of imbalance and behaviors within ourselves that surface when we're in imbalance. So where you're not independent, where you have emotional attachments, or where you're not applying or flowing energy properly, or even honestly at all. So it's really this wonderful place of self-awareness, where you get to reflect and learn more about who you are and go deeper into that. So it's really beautiful.
Okay. So ascension, as we move up the tree, we start our journey in Kabbalah in Malkut, which is our physical element. It's the physical realm. And as we ascend up the tree, it's the way home. It's the way back to God. So we're raising our vibration and we're going on this inner journey. As things arise, as we're looking at our balance, our weaknesses and our strengths, and seeing more where we're out of balance, and beginning to shift that and make the changes that we need to do, whether that's internally or externally, it paves the way for us to bring more light. And the more clearing we do of our negative ego, the more light that we hold, the higher vibrational level that we carry. And that leads us more into also reclamation of our divinity. And it's hard to feel your divinity when you have a bunch of stuff from your subconscious, clogging up your daily living. I have low self-esteem, or I don't think I can do that, or no matter what I do, it's not good enough. Those are the kinds of things that do not fit with being a God. And so this assists us with some of those core beliefs that we might have about ourselves. So this is a 12-month process. So there's a lot of time to explore and begin to understand yourself more. Where am I expressing my godliness? But where am I not expressing my godliness? How am I expressing my godliness or not expressing that on a daily basis? In my relationships, whether they're my intimate relationships, my work relationships, my intimacy with myself, and really the self-honesty, being able to own our weaknesses as well as our strengths, and being able to see your weaknesses is very helpful in overcoming them and coming into better balance, I think, which is, we all desire that. So it's an incredible journey into ourselves so that it can pave the way for us to live on a daily basis at a higher vibratory level, where we are living the godly life on a daily, minute by minute basis that I'm sure that we all desire, or we wouldn't be doing this work. So Kabbalah will help us to change. It takes you at your word, and it will manifest its wisdom where you need it the most to help you evolve into the perfected being of God, of being godlike. The tree will take you at your word. It's just like, be careful what you pray for. Because that exact same thing may happen. So it will take us at our word, but it will bring us deeper wisdom about ourselves, more peace, more joy, self-love. I think those are all qualities that we desire and would love to feel 24/7. So we start in Malkut at the base of the tree in the physical world. When we're in this realm, it helps us to gain discernment, which is the strength of the sphere. To discern what is real and what's not real, what's an illusion and what's not an illusion, what is truth and what isn't truth. It helps us discern in our daily living, to discern people, to discern situations, to discern the very reality that's there. So gaining discernment is like a very desirable thing to have. We need to know and start where we live, which is on the planet. So we can gain some clarity. We gain more discernment. We gain more clarity. Helps us hone our senses. So the next piece up the tree is Yesod. And that helps to strengthen our foundation. I guess I just mentioned my foundation needed to change. And it continues to change as I strive to embody more of my divinity on a daily basis, on a minute by minute basis. So where's the foundation of our world? Do we want it to be our spiritual selves? That's what the quest is. That's what these initiations are about, to progress further and further to to be more godlike in the world. So Yesod helps us to strengthen that. If we don't know where our home is and we don't know what our foundation is, then how can we come back to that place? So we need to know where our starting ground is. So might I be shown where my foundation is rocky and where it needs to change? Perhaps it needs to crumble in a job where no one values me, where my boss shames me, where I don't feel like I'm doing a lot of good rather than just always being pointed out what's wrong. Maybe that's a desirable change in my foundation, so that I feel more valued and valuable in my daily living. So those are the kinds of things where our foundation, it's helpful for it to change, and the tree helps us to do that. As we move back up this path of this flaming sword, we come into Hod. That's where our rational mind lives, and we learn about truth. We can take a good look at our belief systems. Most of us, as we progress, our belief systems start to change more and more as we embrace more truth. And where our own beliefs are holding us back, whatever the belief system is, wherever it applies, about myself, about jobs, about relationships, that type of thing. We have a lot of support in this sphere, and Archangel Michael helps us to see the truth in what's serving us and what is not serving us. Then we move across to Netzach. So they're directly across from each other. And that's the nature of these Sephirot and how we come to know balance. If Hodak is much more rational and in our logical minds, Netzach is much more about emotions and feelings and passion, beauty, expressing more of our divinity through our art, through our dance, through our daily living, however we choose to do that, awakening more of our sensuality. And this is exactly the opposite of Hod on the other side. Hod is about more thinking, Netzach's about more feeling. So an example might be if someone is very Hod-like, and we all have a tendency, if we're out of balance, to be one way or the other. And if my mind has served me well, and it's helped me to feel good about myself in the world, that's great. It's a gift. When I rely on my mind to define me and my emotions are shut down, so that would be like a college professor, really smart, but really dry. Because there's so much in Hod and they're out of balance in Netzach. Just like we can be way too emotional and then we don't have enough logic working for us. And so we want to come to balance. And that's why they're directly across from each other on the tree. So Hod is very rigid and structured, and Netzach is more about expression of our divinity, art, beauty, writing, whatever brings us joy. We also start to see here more our emotional attachments. Our emotional attachments hold us back if we're attached to something. Not wrong for me to want to have abundance in my life. It's my attachment to the abundance where that makes me feel more important, or it makes me feel more worthy. And look what I've accomplished. It's that emotional attachment that blocks our light. So it helps to bring these things up. I had a hard time understanding this for a long time, but it's not bad to have what we have in the world. It's the meaning we assign to it sometimes holds us back from our godliness. So we get a little more honest with ourselves. And then we come up the tree into Sephirot. And this is where the lower self joins with the higher self energies, basically. Sephirot is about heart. It's about Christ consciousness. It's about beauty. It's about balance. And again, when we're ascended into Sephirot, it gives us another opportunity to take a look. Where are my emotional attachments stopping me, stopping my progression into the light? And my belief systems about myself, as well as perhaps others that are not the truth. So if we have inner child work to do here, this would be one of the places where some of that wounding would come up, and we can pull them out at the source and we can replace them with our divinity. It's the healing center of the tree, and it's about heart. Then we come into Geburah. Geburah is about severity, but it's about strength. It's about power. So if I'm not very good at setting boundaries, it's going to show me the next layer of my inner onion where it would be helpful for me to set boundaries, to honor myself, perhaps in places where I have not been honoring myself or loving myself. And so I need to have more appropriate boundaries. For some of us, it might be about letting our boundaries down a little. For other people, it might be about tightening them up. It just depends upon our personalities. So we learn about more about boundary settings here. And that's boundaries wherever. It could be in our jobs, again, in our relationships with other people, with our friends, with our partners, wherever we're not honoring ourselves. Opposite that, then, is Hesed, which is mercy. So can I lovingly set a boundary, but be firm with others? I don't have to be mean when I set a boundary. I don't have to be shaming when I set a boundary. I mean, I can say something like, it's just not really working for me, I'm feeling a need, or however you want to say it. But there are ways to set boundaries without, in a firm way, but still being loving towards yourself. So Hesed is about mercy. And then we come into a place of worthiness and readiness. We cross the abyss, and then we experience that the top three Sephirot, the supernal realm, divine masculine, divine feminine, God, divine union. It's incredible.